Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome into episode 19, Kayfabe Kouncil, the show where we review and critique news topics and segments in the world of professional wrestling. My name is Pretty Tony, and alongside me, as always, is TF Joker. Joker, what's the crack, brother? What's going on?
I'm saying how much. We've been surprised to hear that we're on episode 19.
Indeed.
We're almost 20 years of age. 20 episodes in.
Delete is
Currently
appropriate.
legal to drink in my country, as you were saying in our pre-production meeting. I was not quite old enough to drink where you are, but we have lax laws when it comes to drinking.
We are getting up there in age if we go based on our episode numbers, but we are getting a little bit more seasoned, still rough around the edges, but we can work out some things, we can learn a few things, and we can always get better.
Oh yeah, another 100% rough around the edges, and I think that's our charm. Don't want us to be too polished. Would be too charming, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I do like the nature of us, again, just two guys just chatting, talk about wrestling, making super obscure and weird references, and landing a joke that probably only two people listening would ever get, but we still make
just
them.
The two people talking.
That too.
Like we're the only ones that get the references. It's like, yeah, probably that's just whoosh over someone's head right now.
That's all good. But yeah, it's always, like we mentioned in every episode, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, brother, and I'm glad you're doing well this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, super interesting week in wrestling this week. I know the Hurricane Ian, which our thoughts are with a lot of the folks affected in the southeastern portion of the United States, but that also had a factor to come into play for both the WWE and the AEW shows that happened this week. So a little bit sort of kind of changing up some segments or kind of things like that. But, we hope everybody is okay and safe and nothing too crazy happened to them. But yeah, it led to interesting shows.
Yeah, a lot of people missing from elements of the shows, and for it was obvious for SmackDown. I don't know why I put an H in SmackDown there, like it kind of it was more obvious for them in the Sheamus segment because the Brawling Brutes weren't able to make it. But the rest of the time, it was pretty fluid. Segments probably ran a wee bit longer. Different people were probably involved and stuff. But yeah, like you said, hopefully everyone who is affected is staying safe and nothing has been too irreparably damaged. And yeah, then we can all get back to regularly scheduled life as it is.
Yeah, definitely. And hope everybody is okay out there. So, for sure. And then also, once again, thank you everybody for checking us out or downloading the episodes, as well as checking out the couple of latest shorts on the YouTube channel. The Sammy Zayn honorary Us, Jay Uso loses hope, garnered some views. So we appreciate it so much. And thank you for all the comments and the views and everything. And like I had mentioned before, I put a lot of work into the shorts themselves, so it's always nice when folks give us a chance to check it out. And so again, thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And if you do happen to watch the shorts, please do throw a wee comment down there and thank PT for his hard work because he does all the editing for these shows and for the shorts, and he does some stand-up job. So if you hear me asking this, please do throw a wee comment down and say thank you, PT, because without him, I don't think we would have such funny shorts going out for y'all to enjoy.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and thank you again, folks, for just giving us a chance. All right, before we jump into the show proper, we here at Kayfabe are saddened to hear about the passing of Antonio Inoki. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this time. All right, and as a reminder, you can find us and the aforementioned on video form at youtube.com/KayfabeKouncil and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts from. On this week's episode, we look at Jericho Appreciation Society's celebration to begin AEW Dynamite, and we also look at the Ring of Honor World Championship match to end Dynamite. But coming up first, the Jericho Appreciation Society celebration. So, this, of course, as once mentioned before, started off AEW Dynamite. So the show opens with the Jericho Appreciation Society making their entrance, all in matching purple suits, of course, cosplaying as Grimace. You get it, you get it. And we see Luigi Primo is in the ring, throwing dough around next to some tables with pizza on them. Angelo Parker asks the AEW Galaxy to appreciate them. And Daddy Magic talks about how he called the pizza guy in, and he asks what kind of pizza he made. Luigi says he made the best pizza from New York City. Of course, AEW came from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the crowd wants pizza, but Anna Jay tells them they can't have it. But they can have the greatest Ring of Honor world champion of all time, the Ocho, Chris Jericho. So starting off here, just, man, those purple suits. That was something else,
Yeah,
brother.
definitely reminded me of the hazelnut and caramel quality street that you get at Christmas time. Again, if you know, you know. It's like I just remember seeing the giant quality street going, oh, kind of want quality street right now. The only thing we didn't see, which I didn't actually realize until it was mentioned to me, no Jake Hager.
I was just about to mention because I looked at them. It looks like they had like when it came up on the ramp and they like turned around and then turned back facing front. They had like a little bit of choreography, and I was like, man, there's a lot of those guys folks out there. And then I was like, oh yeah, no Jake. So
Yeah, it would have been really good to see if because he has played along with a lot of the stuff, like with the matching outfits, with the Backstreet Boys with the whole white gimmick, and things like I say. It would have been good to see Jake Hager in purple, but I think he was one of the aforementioned talent that were affected by Hurricane earlier this week. But yeah, the I I don't know why, but every time um we hear Cool Hand Ange go AEW Galaxy appreciate us, I just can't help but giggle. I just can't help but smile. He doesn't do it all the time. Obviously, it's a rib on Roman. Um, but it's just so good. It's just sports entertainment at its finest. And I love it.
you love to be sports entertained.
Definitely. Like, I love the wrestling. There's very little you can say about good wrestling. Good wrestling's good wrestling. You just appreciate it. And, even though I am not a wrestler, and I can appreciate good matches, I couldn't give you the technical intricacies. But whenever it comes to stories and things that I like, I can definitely tell you why it popped me, why this thing's good, what I'd like to see. So it's just one of those things. And this AW Galaxy Appreciate Us is definitely riling some people up, and I love to see it.
Yeah, nice little jab sort of at the WWE and the Fed as a whole, with them being sports entertainment and the WWE universe and the Roman instead of acknowledge, it's appreciate. So again, nice little, just very, very subtle. I agree. I like that they don't do it all the time, but nice little kind of just little jab right there.
Yeah. Definitely the 2.0 guys, Matt Menard and Kulhan Dange. Um, they bring an awful lot to these segments because they are very funny. They are very entertaining. But whenever they get in the ring as well, like they are very good. These guys are just all around amazing. I think they are sort of filling the role of Proud and Powerful for me at the minute, where they are a tag team in Chris Jericho's orbit that is not doing tag team things and not pursuing tag team gold, kind of like how Santana and Ortiz were back in the inner circle. So I would like to see them maybe do a little bit more with that. But if all they need to polish up is their promos, then this is really good. This is really good work for them.
Yeah, for sure. So we get Chris Jericho jumping on the mic here and responding to the crowd's chants of "We want pizza." Jericho also says that they can't have the pizza, but they can have the most important Ring of Honor world champion in history. He says more people have seen him with the belt than any other Ring of Honor world champion in history, and he's going to change the way Ring of Honor is remembered. And this is the era of Ring of Jericho. He's starting tonight with his title defense against one of the greatest today, former ROH world champion Bandido. But he's a wrestler, and sports entertainers always beat wrestlers. Chris turns to Daniel Garcia and puts him over, giving him a gift. Garcia opens the box and pulls out a purple bucket hat. Then Jericho puts it on him, and they all celebrate while Daniel looks at on like, am I really part of this clown show? He takes the hat off and considers it before throwing it to the ground and decking Luigi Primo. And he says, "This is enough. This isn't him." And he tolerated it for a little bit, but he's finally had enough. And he wants to tell Chris something, but he's been meaning to get it off his chest for a long time. And he thinks it's time for him to. But Jericho puts his hand on the mic and cuts him off, telling him to consider his actions wisely. Because the right decision means a long, happy career, but the wrong one means Chris takes him out tonight.
So to go back to the start of this little section, you know the is it sad trombone noises, but like just whenever you hear to see the bucket hat go on and the camera just looks at Garcia, all you hear is the sad trumpet or trombone, whatever it is, because he looked so dejected. It's like, are you kidding me, man? Like, what's going on here? Like, Danny Garcia just made me pop with just the stupidest little look, and I loved it. Like, I didn't even care that he hit Luigi Primo. I was just like, yeah, okay, cool. Um, Whatever. The bucket hat got more of a pop out of me than the punch in Luigi Primo. Um, but definitely the continuation then on to him saying, him wanting to have the private word, and then just getting thrown next week. Next week we'll talk about it next week. And him doing it in sort of this public forum and Jericho stopping him and all that. It's really good. Um, it definitely looks like we are okay. So the cynic in me is this is typical Jericho, where he's going to get Garcia to play this up, and then be like, "You thought I was going to betray my mentor, Chris Jericho, but really, I'm a sports entertainer through and through." And it was all just so that he could humiliate Bryan Danielson, like legit, like that's the cynic in me.
So the long con.
Is Yeah, like a big old long con. Um, And then, the hopeful person in me is he gets to beat the tar out of Sammy Guevara, um, and Chris Jericho, and then leave and join the Blackpool Country Club.
Certainly interesting for sure. Yeah, you can definitely have the nice little moment of, again, Garcia liked the gift, but he was like, "Oh, it's okay. It's a hat. Okay, what am I really doing here?" Chris, I just got to say something. Chris cuts him off. You can kind of feel the tension. It's one
Mm.
of those things. So I believe it was done simply, but it was done very well. And Chris just saying like, you might want to think about what you're gonna say, type of thing, and just kind of like half a threat, but also half not a threat. It's like just you want to make sure you know what you're doing.
But it also builds up that expectation, though, doesn't it? Like, we're expecting Garcia after the last 2 weeks of people chanting, "You're a wrestler." to snap back to his senses and tell Jericho what's what and just kind of leave the clown show, as it were. Um, but because it's Jericho and his faction, you can never tell. Like you have to remember, you have to take everything he does with a pinch of salt. Everything that surrounds him, there's the pinch of salt aspect in there, where you have to be like, this is going to happen, but wait, it's just going to be a swerve so that Jericho can, take somebody else out. It's going to be it.
Yeah, for sure. And we have Jericho respond to Daniel, asks if he's a sports entertainer or a pro wrestler. Garcia takes a long, measured stare into Y2J's eyes. And then the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, makes his entrance, flanked by William Regal. Danielson gets in the ring and tells Jericho he needs to stop making decisions for Garcia, and tells Daniel that he's a man and respects his decision. And if he wants to be with JAS or the BCC, he can do what he likes. And Chris tells Bryan to shut up and says Daniel Garcia belongs to him. He does what he wants.
At that point, you're like, oh, you've said the wrong thing. Don't nobody own Danny Garcia, Chris Jericho, and he snapped.
Yeah. We see Garcia yanks the mic out of his hand and he says he doesn't belong to Jericho and he doesn't have to do anything Chris tells him to do. And he makes a bunch of mocking suggestions as to what he could do to be entertaining, culminating with asking the crowd if tagging with Bryan Danielson would be entertaining. And of course, the crowd is extremely into it, and Daniel pitches a match, he and Bryan versus Guevara and Chris Jericho. And then we see Matt Menard jump on the mic and he yells at Daniel Garcia, and he says they're sick of this crap, and threatens to punch Danielson and knock him out right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And of course, Bryan says he's got some good news because he can have a match with anyone who wants to fight him. And so he wants Daddy Magic right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes to all of this. Okay. Obviously the end result, the Bryan Danielson versus Daddy Magic, you know, turn phrase, got a lot of people's nipples hard, really. That match was just like, come on, Daddy Magic. And yeah, the whole thing with Bryan sort of being there was like, is he gonna do anything? And then it was actually Danny doing the threatening on Sammy and Chris, turning away from the obvious choice that you would have thought he would have made with 2.0 with the people who he came in with, which is what Matt Menard was sort of getting at. He was like, "Oh yeah, cool. I'm not going to challenge the guys who helped me and brought me into this company because I have a measure of respect." That's what it felt like to me at that point. So it was like, cool. And then that's probably why he felt slighted, like ignored. At least
Yeah.
that's kind of the way it felt.
Yeah, there's a couple different things that kind of happen sort of on the last couple part there. I like the fact that he just yanks the mic out of Jericho's hand. And he's like, I don't belong to you and I don't have to do anything you tell me to do. Right? So builds tension. And he's all of a sudden he's just like, you know what, we're sports entertainer. Maybe I'll take this pizza and throw it on the ground. Okay. Maybe me and Justin Roberts will just be a tag team. Sounds good. And just kind of playing it up. That would be entertaining. Huh? Right? Right, Chris? Right, everybody? You know what would be entertaining? Bryan Danielson and I, Daniel Garcia, versus you, Chris Jericho, and your boy, Sammy Guevara. So very, very interesting. He's gonna lay in the seeds. And to your earlier point, I do like Bryan just come in and sort of stirs the pot. He doesn't instigate. He's just like, you know what, dude? Like he starts off really, really hot. And I believe his verbiage was comes in the ring, grabs a mic, and Bryan Danielson's just like, you know what, Daniel? I have infinite amount of respect for you, type of thing, and then doesn't even sort of acknowledge Chris at that point.
That was it. Like
Yeah,
he didn't really do anything. He just
yeah,
kind of stood there and was like, he was like whenever your friend comes up and there's some punks just kind of starting something, and your friend just rolls up, is like, "Is everything okay?" And you're just kind of like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm good." Like he doesn't really acknowledge anything. He just kind of, "I'm here if you need me," sort of thing. And then I was expecting him to like start calling Jericho out or something like this here, but yeah, it didn't happen.
yeah. Didn't have to needle, didn't have to sort of kind of poke or prod or anything like that. Just kind of was like, hey, just sprinkled a little bit in, just to be like and kind of to get Danny to run with it. And the piece with Matt Menard, like again, Matt gets on and he's just like, dude, I'm sick of this. Like when you came here, we took you under our wing, you partnered with us, we looked out for one another, and he's right. And Daniel Garcia couldn't say anything because he was like you,
Like,
what you're
yeah,
stating is
100%.
fact. You are
Yeah,
stating fact.
exactly. And that's why I feel like he didn't call them out because of that particular reason. Like,
Yeah,
I have no reason to attack you guys because regardless of what we've been doing in the JAS, you guys were there for me at the beginning. You're here for me now. I have no beef with you. I don't want to fight you and you and the I don't want to fight 2.0 essentially. I don't want to fight you two. Um but I have a problem with Jericho. So who'd be the next logical person? Well, Hager's not here. So let's just have the sex gods. Like so there you go.
yeah,
Sammy
kind of
Guevara and Chris Jericho combination.
the other like young kid, kind of the
Mm,
other sort of young single star sort of in the JS
yeah.
alongside Daniel Garcia, yeah. And
Hmm,
obviously
hmm.
like with Chris and Sammy, they've teamed before, they've been together in the inner circle and things like that. So they've had the history and type of thing. And not to say that Danny Garcia is like the new flavor of the week, not anything like that, but he's just sort of like he doesn't have that sort of deep established relationship that Chris and Sammy do. So it
Yeah.
actually kind of made sense. He was like, you and your boy Sammy type of thing, which they have that relationship. And then just the relationship built on admiration and respect that Bryan Danielson and Danny Garcia have. So very interesting dynamic of the two pairings for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely within the confines of AEW. Jericho has obviously teamed before with Jake Hager, and then he has teamed with Sammy Guevara. He hasn't really teamed with Danny Garcia in the entire time that he's been in part of the JAS. So much so that that is they've got the wee name for Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Um, but it is one of those things that you can easily tell that Sammy is his boy because he went away from the inner circle with very little sort of reaction, and then about a month or two later came back dressed as Fuego del Sol, which by the way was great. And it was just one of those things that you're like, okay, so all you have to do is do this one thing, and you're back in Chris Jericho's good books. Like there was no trials, there was no tests. It was just literally welcome back. Whereas if that was for anybody else, and I feel like Johnny Garcia would be like, okay, cool. Well, if I had done that, you'd probably been like, you know, screwing me over or something.
Here's food for thought on just that quick notion. Maybe it's because he did the same thing. He started the JAS with Hager, a holdover
Hmm.
from the inner circle,
Hmm.
and Sammy eventually joined the JAS, a holdover
Yep.
from the inner circle. So maybe it was
Right.
one of those two individuals that were like, well, I've went to war with these two guys. And there's battle tested, they had wasn't it the inner circle facing off against the pinnacle in the first like blood and guts? And that was when MJF shoved Jericho off of the cage through steel
Yes,
looking paper grids on the stage type of thing.
the pillows.
Right. So that notwithstanding, he's gone to battle with Jake and Sammy. So he's kind of like, all right, well, I can I can trust these guys. I can rely on them. I can vouch for them. So maybe it's one of those two that again he's has that prior established relationship that again, to harken to an earlier point I had that Danny doesn't have. Maybe it's Danny kind of longing for something. Danny's trying to find something, whatever that is. He's in the JS right now. Is it the best or ideal spot for him? Who knows exactly, but it's definitely elevated his positioning and elevated him for sure. Is he longing for something different? Is he longing for something more? His character suggests that. So it adds that definitely that dynamic that Sammy is like super content. Him and Ty Mello are in there. They're living their best life. But Danny Garcia is conflicted. And it's just
Hmm.
those two, Sammy and Daniel, juxtaposed together is an interesting dynamic as well.
Yeah, so like there is a lot of interesting sort of dynamic to compare the two people, to compare Sammy to Danny. There is a lot of practical knowledge out there about Sammy as well. That in the sense being when Sammy left the inner circle, he went off to have his solo run doing the TNT title,
Right,
which
right.
let's face it, was universally despised. Not because he was a heel, and I'm sure he sees it as a win at being a heel, but honestly, um, if I was watching it live, I would have turned off until he was off the TV. So he was more of a ratings black hole to me because everything he was doing, the promos were awkward. The making out in public thing was just overdone. The sort of black hole of destruction that he had with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Like I loved Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page as Men of the Year, but I feel like they kind of got stained with the stink of just terrible story writing on this entire thing. And then because that failed and because Wardlow took the title from him or from Scorpio, um, just after this whole thing was sort of encompassed in the Sammy sphere, Sammy went back to the JAS. Like he left just before and then he went back. So I feel like it's more of a safe haven for Sammy to be in a sort of faction as the guy that's there and can compete because I don't feel like he's quite ready for um that solo sort of breakaway just yet. Either through it's through no fault of his own, I believe, because if it is the creative, then that is more what I would put on that. Whereas Danny has the opposite feeling to him. He's been putting on banger matches, and he feels like he is a completely different um, style of person in this microcosm of the JAS that is sports entertainers, and deserves to be having matches with huge talent. Like personally, another person that I would love to see him fight against, who's coming back, Konosuke Takeshita. I believe like a match between those two would be super good. And other people, I would love to see a Wheeler Yuta match again. I would love just to see him against MJF as well. Like, there's a whole bunch of other people that I would love to see him, but because he is stuck in this sphere of Jericho, um, as well, is just kind of deprives us of Danny,
Yeah,
and I
that's
feel
a
like he's the one that needs to break out.
yeah, it's very interesting you notice that Sammy made his way back to his partnership with Jericho after the inner circle into the JAS, and that's sort of a bit of a comfort zone, like you alluded to. And he feels kind of it's a little bit of a safe space where Danny's trying to break out of that, or the character of Daniel Garcia is trying to break out of that, and again, search what he's looking for, find that kind of piece where he fits and belongs. So, yeah, I do find again just the juxtaposition of Sammy compared to Danny. I'll agree with the points that you made, and
Mm,
something that we mentioned as well in previous episodes and during some of our discussions too is the growth of Danny Garcia. Like we noticed too that again, if we I mentioned I believe in the previous episode that we one of the first ones we covered in sort of episode 1 or early on in the show was the nature of the Blackpool Combat Club confronting the JS in a promo, and that was the one mentioning that the Lordship William Regal with the toothbrush kind of thing. And
yeah.
Danny made sort of a singular comment juxtaposed to now. Again, he had a bit of time to speak on the mic, and he feels and looks a little bit more comfortable. I'm not saying he's 100%. What I'm going with is he's smoothed out a little bit of those rough edges. He feels and seems a little bit more confident than he did all those months back. And that's a testament to him again, sitting under the learning tree of Chris, probably being around Matt Menard and Angelo Parker, who also feel a little bit more comfortable speaking on the mic and things like that, just picking up little tidbits there. But yeah, it's one of those things that how do you get better? You work with people that are better than you. And it's one of those sharp iron sharpens iron type of things. But yeah, you can see that he's developed for sure as a little bit more well-rounded performer. Again, and taking nothing away from his wrestling ability, but I do feel like we've seen him grow a bit from when we started our show and sort of talked about him before.
Yeah, yeah, I've mentioned it before, and it's definitely something that I've paid attention to as well, and seen. Um, like him trying to have a promo with Lord William Regal in the ring, and Chris Jericho and John Moxley and Bryan Danielson and Eddie Kingston. Like, I don't care who you are probably going to be nervous. So to have him go from that point where he just had that little throwaway kind of little segment, it's like you felt kind of awkward, kid. Give the mic to the professionals. To now, where I really liked his, sock to Luigi Primo, and then there's like, oh, I could wake up Luigi and knock him out again, and then with Justin Robertson, I make a good tag team. Would that be entertaining? I love that, by the way. I think the Dapper Yapper and Danny Garcia would make a great tag team. And then the train cars moving along to where we are now. It's like it was really good. It was a really good promo. Um, and a few months ago, I wouldn't have thought that he could have delivered a good promo.
Agreed, and it's just one that I'm liking the fact that he is just getting better and feeling more comfortable type of thing, and I think we mentioned it also too during our pre-production meeting. Wheeler Yuta had a promo as well this week, and again, he's not had a ton of opportunities to speak on the mic for himself. I believe this is about his third promo, full-fledged, being able to speak, and he's feeling better. Wheeler was in his hometown of Philadelphia, and it can be tough, like you mentioned, to have a promo against the likes of MJF, like Wheeler did, like against Chris Jericho, like Danny Garcia did, and things like that. You know, it's one of those sink or swims and kind of swimming with the sharks and guys who feel more comfortable on the mic type of thing. And but again, both those individuals, Danny and Wheeler, getting their reps. You got to that's the only way to do it to get better is you got to do it. And again, you can learn and get a little bit of help and understanding from people that are better than you. But yeah, again, these guys are getting better and it's great to see. You want to see these guys develop and get better.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Like the Wheeler Yuta promo, like, we talked about as well. The passion came through from Wheeler being in his hometown, and the passion came out for Danny in this ring promo as well. There was definite elements for both of these young stars where they were learning and progressing. And I loved. Wheeler's promo because he called out MJF on how he gets his heat. And it's a simple formula for being a heel. Insult everyone, say you're the best. He is not reinventing the wheel, ladies and gentlemen. MJF has a very basic formula. Look like a stuck up prick, tell them stuff about yourself that makes you, in your opinion, better than the unwashed masses. Like, that is legitimately all you have to do. Insult the sports team, say they're stupid. If you go back in time to every heel ever, they insult the sports team, they call you stupid, they say you're fat, they say you smell, you say you have an ugly wife or whatever. He's not reinventing the wheel. And Wheeler Yuta's promo, like, did exactly that. And I feel like that's another step in the progress of direction for these guys. Like, I would love to see them to get more work done even together. Like, maybe Yuta and Garcia can get together and Yuta can just call out Garcia as like, yo, bro, what are you doing? Like, you part of that sports entertainment BS. You coming over here now? I want another shot at the pure championship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, dude. Whatever way it works, but I want to see those two together again. I don't think I can understate that enough.
Time tested formula. It works. You just got to be able to be suave and work the formula to what works best for you. But it does work for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so those were our thoughts on the Jericho Appreciation Society celebration at Open Dynamite. Let us know down in the comments below on YouTube or on Twitter and Instagram what your thoughts were on the celebration for the Ocho Chris Jericho.
Means it.
All right, and our other topic here is we're going to look at the Ring of Honor World Championship match that ended Dynamite. So we see Bandido make his entrance, as well as Chris Jericho, full regalia. And we start off the match with the Code of Honor in full effect, but Jericho flips Bandido off and earns a bunch of right hands in return. Chris lands with some lariats and sent to the floor. Back inside, and we go to the break. And back from commercial, Bandido is back in control, and we have an absolutely incredible delayed vertical suplex, counting with the crowd for nearly a full minute before dropping Chris. And then quickly, Bandido climbs to the top rope and performs a frog splash, but does not get the 3 count. And out of the corner, Jericho comes with a lariat, and up to the top, Bandido knocks him down and drives right into a code breaker, and unfortunately does not still yet get the pin. And then to the apron, Bandido with the elbows, but Jericho punches him right in the nose, and it follows it up with an avalanche Frankensteiner to the floor as they go to break. And when we see, of course, that it looks that Bandido may have busted his nose or busted his lip, because we see a little bit of blood coming onto the mask itself. But since they are going to the ad break following the Frankensteiner from the apron, hot dang. Nice kind of fun start to the match, especially with the beginning with the Code of Honor there, a little bit with that handshake to start.
That handshake at the start, man. Like, he looks like he goes to do it, and then he grabs the hand, and then he fist bumps, and then he back of the hand, and then he flips him off, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we figured. It's just like, oh, come on, Jericho. I thought that was really good because wasn't it Ian Riccoboni on commentary was
Yes,
like,
sir.
it's like, oh, it's just typical Chris Jericho sort of can't believe he's insulting the code of honor or whatever it was he said. By the way, his commentary throughout the match is just great because he was just giving digs to Jericho. I do like the fact that with these Ring of Honor matches as well, we do hear, I believe, Bandido is the 35th or 36th Ring of Honor champion,
Yeah, I believe
and Chris
right in that
Jericho's,
pocket, 35, 36.
yeah,
Yeah,
and Chris Jericho, I believe, is the 38th.
I believe so. Yeah.
So it's nice to hear. It's like this is the whatever number champion versus the whatever number champion, and you know I personally have only seen Bandido once, and it was from the Ring of Honor pay per view earlier on in the year. Was it Bound for Glory?
No,
No,
that's the
that's an
Impact
Impact.
one's
Yes,
Death Before
um,
Dishonor.
Death Before Dishonor, where he was against oh my goodness, my names people.
No,
Remember the
this
names.
was my apologies. This was Supercard of Honor against uniting Jonathan Gresham. So
100%. No, you're correct. Yes.
so
Against Jonathan
Supercard
Gresham for that.
Supercard of Honor. Yeah, for the
Because
now
Bandido was stripped of the title
yeah
because of the pandemic,
on yeah
and Jonathan Gresham went whatever. So that all aside, cool history. I like the fact that he was. It was a really good match with Gresham back in there, but this match was like so much bigger, so much better, and there is obvious information out there about myself where I have said I hate spot fests, where everything has to be a spot. I think you know Jeff Hardy versus Darby
Darby
Allen
Allen.
a while ago, where I complained nonstop that it was just a spot fest and it was boring. This had spot, rest, a little bit of action was going on. It was an actual wrestling match. Spot, and then a little bit of action going. Spot, like it was really good. It was really well paced, and it was really it was set up to allow Bandido to look amazing, and amazing he looked, because that stalling vertical suplex was some of the gnarliest stuff, because you could tell, like, okay, like Ian Riccoboni on commentary is like he's the strongest pound for pound wrestler today in Ring of Honor. There's another guy used to be the Ring of Honor world champion, could be called the strongest pound for pound wrestler, and I would like to see those two fight now. So anyway, him just holding it, you can see like he's nice and straight, nice and straight. And you can see, oh, he's kind of arching back, and Chris is coming forward, and he's like, he's trying to help, he's trying to count people getting up there in numbers. I think it was like about a minute, like he held him up there and then just drops. I just kind of sat there going, okay, man, do you want to put him down at any point? And then they made really good observation where he was up there so long, and then he came down, pins and needles in the fingertips and the arms, blood rushing back to your extremities and stuff. But the amount it took out of Bandido to do that, like that it would be exhausting. And the spots that he had just done, like, and the spots that he's about to do,
You talk about
what?
you talk about making a guy making his AEW debut, and for a lot of folks, like you had mentioned, really the first opportunity to see this guy on American mainstream television and for an American audience. Luckily, I've got a chance to see Bandito work a couple of times beforehand, so I had an idea of what he was kind of going to do. But man, we're talking about a strong showing. Highlight the delayed vertical suplex. We've seen guys like Goldberg has, when he does a jackhammer, he'll hold some guys up for, a few seconds. We've seen the likes of the British Bulldog show off his strength and just do a delayed vertical suplex. But the nature of the vertical suplex here, it's always fun when you can get the crowd just when you do something or you do nothing and they go bananas, right? But the fact that he did this, it's just a suplex. It's not, we're not doing destroyers or we're not doing topes, and we're doing a suplex, right? And the fact that he held it there, and Chris is over 200 pounds. He's not certainly super super heavy, but that's regardless. We'll just call it like 205, 210. That's still 200 pounds that you're holding up in the air. You're trying to balance, right? That's for the guts of about a minute. Absolutely incredible showing by both men. I give both men credit for that too. It
Mhm.
was absolutely incredible, man. Like, yeah. And then, before as we took a break in the matchup here, that Frankensteiner to the outside, showing strength, He did the frog splash, showing agility, showing the propensity to have a varied move set. Man, he was coming off strong, and I think a lot of folks were just enjoying either their first time or return viewing of Bandido.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people out there that probably look at that and go, just you mentioning the weight of Chris kind of put in my head, like people will look or listen to that and hear, oh well, that's that amount, and he's holding it up. It's like, yes, he's holding 200 plus uneven pounds. So like you can go to the gym and you'll see guys who are doing reps of big weight. You probably sat back at home being armchair muscle man, being I can do that easy. Yeah. You could probably lift that static weight that is evenly distributed along the bar. This guy had uneven weight on his right side of his body, like from his midriff to his shoulder and above, and he had to hold his own balance another human being, and hold him there on his like knees, hips, back, shoulders, like everything. So that was super difficult. Like you said, this is his debut in AEW, and I can't think of a more powerful, impactful debut from a little cause like sees it no name individual compared to the likes of the Adam Cole's, the Bryan Danielsons, the big name debuts, who just kind of got over on their name. This guy, Bandido, made just as big an impact for me personally based off of his ability. And I will not soon forget this match just because of his performance and how good he was.
Yeah, to further put Bandido over, to supplement your point earlier about just lifting weight or lifting uneven weight, there's one thing to like, all right, maybe I'm just going to press 200 pounds over my head, for example. But then, one of the things too that's very challenging, we talk about uneven weight. Sometimes you see those kind of like either sandbag filled or those weighted dummies that imitate a person's torso, right? And you try to think of like firemen or firefighters trying to do what's called a fireman's carry, where you put a basically a person onto your shoulders. That is one of the toughest things to do, is to lift a somebody, let's just call 200 pounds, call it even something in that pocket. But again, it's very undistributed weight. Like a lot of that stuff sort of in the torso. The legs can be a little bit heavier than the arms per se. But yeah, it's just not easiest thing to basically like, especially if somebody's on the ground. God
Mm.
forbid they're in a chair or they're kind of lying down. But like, yeah, to get that full uneven weight up onto your shoulders and just carry, but then to have them be a vertical position, but then also uneven sort of on your right side, like you mentioned, dude's beast. Ridiculous.
It
So further putting
can't
him
put it
over
any
there.
other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't put it any other way. He was just amazing.
Big strong boy. All right. So we come back from commercial and we see Bandito doing a sunset flip near fall. Of course, Jericho, with a near fall of his own, float over into a suplex. And we get that Bandito with a really interesting and just awesome crucifix driver, but it's not enough as well. See a back breaker rack, and then we see Chris blocks the knee and puts the walls of Jericho in on Bandito in the middle of the ring. Bandito gets the ropes, Jericho with some stomps, and then a suplex perching up top, and he gets met with an insecurity. We see up top Bandito with an absolutely insane avalanche moonsault fall away slam for a 2 count. Wasn't even the finish. And we get a couple of forearms, a backbreaker rack once again dropped into a knee, rebound German suplex, and Chris Jericho just doesn't give up easily. And then finish of the match here, we see Chris pulls down the mask and get an inside cradle for a 2 count on Bandito. Get a big boot, a double leg, a lion tamer is applied, and unfortunately, Bandito can't see and has nowhere to go and taps out to the lion tamer, having Chris Jericho retain the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship.
Moonsault Avalanche moonsault,
Fall away
fall
slam.
away slam. Like I just don't know what it was for a 2 count.
For a 2
That
count.
that spot lives rent free in my head right now. Okay, it has been living there since Wednesday night. This was amazing. Like I just kind of watched it and I went back to watch it because I was like, "What is this?" I went back to watch it again. I was like, "Fall away slam, moonsault." Like, what? How do you describe this? And even those on commentary were like, "I don't know what to call that. I hope he has a name for it because he now needs to do it again." But obviously, it's not something you can do with a really heavy person. And also, this is coming to my earlier point. The energy he expended in that stalling vertical suplex, like he came down almost on his forehead. Like Chris was perfectly safe, but the way Bandido came down, he was maybe an inch, 2 inches away from landing on his forehead and possibly doing, a jerking motion to his neck.
When
And like,
when I saw him,
"Urgh."
when I saw them both on the top rope, and then I see Bandido again on the top rope grab Chris in a carry. I'm like, what are we gonna do? And then I see him begin to do a backflip. I was like, yeah. And then basically my eyes were locked on his like head and face. So
Mhm.
when I saw the same thing, when he does the backflip, the moonsault, and again, tough to do on just by itself. And then you're also doing this like fall away slam, this carry with a person, again, another roughly 200 pounds. He does a backflip, and yeah, there was not a ton of clearance for his head and his face when he performed that backflip, that moonsault part of it. And I got super nervous when they landed it. Maybe it's in my mind, but we see kind of Chris kind of turn over, and he's like, "Are you okay? Okay." And we see Bandito get up. So I was like, you know what? Like, if this is the finish or if it's not the finish, I'm just glad that like they're both okay. That's literally the only thing in my mind. I was like, whatever, I don't want them to get hurt. Glad they were both okay.
100% glad they're both okay. But like that, I could go back and I'll watch it again if I have to. Like if I have to watch this again and again, it was such a good move. You obviously can't use it for specific opponents because heavier weight. I would like to have seen it before the stalling suplex because maybe he wouldn't have been as messed up. But its placement in the match was obvious. It was supposed to get a count. Um, Such a good move. I didn't notice the Jericho moving over because I was honestly kind of sat there going rewind, watch it again, just going out of my mind, going, what the heck is this weirdness? And then 2 count, I'm like, you're not gonna sell that? Why let him do this if you're not gonna and so my disbelief or my sort of common sense and my fandom took over, like my childlike sort of belief that everybody has to beat Chris Jericho came out and was like, why didn't Jericho lose right there? What is wrong? And then you remembered it's a title match. You're like, oh, okay, well, Jericho's not losing.
Yeah, I do appreciate, Chris obviously being a stalwart and being, for lack of a term, a pillar for AEW. He gave a lot. He gave a lot of shine to
Oh,
Bandito in this.
yes.
And
Oh,
the
yes.
fact that Chris posted in that vertical suplex for nearly a minute, the fact that he allowed and agreed to, the moonsault fallaway slam, he gave a lot to him. And I felt in part making a strong showing for Bandito. Ultimately, Chris did a little shenanigans at the end, pulling down the mask and obscuring that, and ultimately getting the Lion Tamer for the win. But these guys had their working boots on, and they, you know what, for a guy making his debut, they both made each other look good. And I was just blown away. And I think, again, I'll reiterate, strong showing from Bandito, all around just solid match.
Oh, yeah. Like, can't say too any much more than that. Like, the Chris Jericho really did give him so much. I feel like it's going to be a staple of Chris's run where we see um, him cheat to win. Not like out now blatantly cheat, but you know, do the little sneaky sort of pull a mask in on a masked opponent that like he did here, which was really good. And we'll probably see, you know, maybe a heel kick, low blow, you know, over here, there, and everywhere. You know, maybe the little slight things before we get to the eventual Bryan Danielson, you know, kicking him off the mountain of Ring of Honor to restore honor and dignity to the championship.
And
But
speaking of which, we see post match Jericho basically challenges and he sets the bar out there, says he's going to beat every great champion that's ever held that Ring of Honor World Championship, including setting up that match with Bryan Danielson on October 12th. So
yeah,
we are just going to see another amazing match and starting off hot with his sort of gauntlet, if you were, just kind of set of challenges and beginning with Bryan on October 12th. So
mm,
yeah.
I kind of want um I kind of both want this match soon, but I also don't want it because I would rather have Bryan be the one to take this off him. I don't know if they're comfortable with giving the title over to Bryan so quickly. Like, I don't feel like it's kind of something that they're going to do here. I could be wrong, but it's definitely something that I feel it would benefit from. The title would benefit from being, it sounds really bad, dragged through the mud in Chris Jericho's hands for a little bit longer to make it seem like he really just has so much disdain for this, and to have someone come in and be that hero to, and I would like to see that be Bryan. There is an obvious second choice, Adam Cole, but I'm not 100% sure if he comes back from injury, do you go with him? Like, it's in the back of my head. It's questioning because they mentioned him as a former Ring of Honor champion.
Former
Um,
three-time world Ring of Honor champion.
well, I did not know that. So, you know, Adam Cole, baby, is rumored to be getting better and closer to a return. It's the one thing that could possibly, you know, would really, really be awesome if Adam Cole came back jacked AF just to, you know, peeve a lot of people off because everybody was giving him ish for being skinny and not defined and all this here and like, stop that. But yeah, him just coming back and taking the title, well, cool, okay. But I would really sort of hope that they drag the title through the mud a little bit longer. To my point, um, do you like what do you think?
I could see him going one of the two ways. I can see it, Chris. I do like that point of kind of disparaging the belt a little bit, downplaying it type of thing, only for the eventual person to defeat him to kind of have sort of that triumphant moment. But I can also see it, for example, we're having him face Bryan rather shortly in a couple weeks. So I can see it being sort of a pseudo transitional reign for Chris. Chris gets his 8th world championship. They get the belt off of Claudio and give it to Bryan potentially as a not quite a make good, but it's one of those just like, all right, well, you didn't win the AEW World title, but it's pseudo consolation prize to have you just run strong with the Ring of Honor title. Wouldn't mind. So I could see it going both ways, honestly.
I do hope that they. I mean, I know it sounds really bad. I hope they do drag that thing through the mud so that we can have this sort of triumphant storyline. I just feel like everything that Chris Jericho touches turns to gold. And I would love to see him have this culminate in a victory and a triumphant sort of rebirth for Ring of Honor. And especially if there are plans for Ring of Honor to have any sort of TV deals in the future, bring it to TV, bring it to whatever they're doing with it. Only time will tell with TK. So it's very interesting. I like the Ocho, the Magic Man, the Champion, the Painmaker, the Lion Tamer. What else is he? Y2J,
The Demo God.
Demo God. Am I
Insert
missing anything?
more. Yeah, just we'll settle for
Yeah.
that. So
I love all of the titles that Chris Jericho has. I think in this um the sort of latter parts of his career, he is really good. You see that he's being, people complain that he's being a bit selfish, but honestly, that match that he had with Bandido was anything but selfish. That was such a selfless match. Yes, sure, he got the win, but Bandido really won.
yeah, he may not have won the battle, but he definitely won a war in terms of getting more exposure and just kind of have an overall win at the end of the night for his career for sure. So we'll see kind of how it goes. And there was murmurs of potentially TK really enjoying Bandido's work, and maybe we could see an offer on the table. Who knows? But I think it was just again all around just amazing match, and yeah, we can go on for days and we'd be talking in circles just about how the same thing. Just Bandito looked strong, and it was just a great showing for him.
No, 100%. I could just start repeating myself all over again and be just as happy doing it. So yeah.
All right, so those were our thoughts on the Ring of Honor World Championship match between Chris Jericho and Bandito. Let us know down in the comments on YouTube what your thoughts were for this matchup, or let us know on Twitter and Instagram what you thought of this match. All right. So, a tiny aside here, normally with a pay per view coming up, this would normally be the piece where we would do some predictions. But we figured we wanted to try something a little bit different. So, this coming week, before WWE's Extreme Rules pay per view, we are going to try to do a little something kind of fun. We're going to do a live stream where we simulate the matches for Extreme Rules in WWE 2K22. So, for those that aren't aware, both Joker and I are gamers, and we've have Twitch streams of our own. We end up playing games and doing various things on there. But yeah, we're now with doing
Neither of us are
the
particularly active right now,
at the
but
moment.
you
We've been putting a little bit more energy into the show proper here and have been doing that for the last couple months, especially, but kind of harkening back to kind of where we came from and kind of doing something a little different. We wanted to try that out. So, again, just simulating the matches here and just kind of having predictions and kind of enjoying the matches and talking about them during said live stream. So, what we have here for the Extreme Rules card at the moment, got Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. We have Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins in a fight pit match. Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross in a strap match, not a strap on. We have Bianca Belair versus Bayley in a ladder match for the Raw Women's Championship. Edge versus Finn Balor in an I Quit match, and just added the other day, the Brawling Brutes facing off against Imperium in a 6-man good old-fashioned Donnybrook match, which will just probably be, a no DQ, probably falls count anywhere type of thing. But yeah, at the moment it's 6 matches slated. We might add a couple of maybe a little fun little pieces in there, maybe throw in a match or two that we think's probably going to happen. Both the WWE and AEW is very prone, especially AEW, for adding
especially
matches very, very late to there. But yeah, we have so far 6 matches. We have an idea of maybe one or two more, but yeah, we're just thinking again, try a little something different, have a nice little live stream, just kind of chat and have the matches simmed and just kind of have fun with it. So,
Yeah, so like 2K is obviously going to be limited in what it can help us do. So the fight pit match is going to be different. There are going to be certain differences in some matches. The main thing we're looking for is we're just going to kind of simulate the match, talk about it, and then just kind of say, "Oh yeah, well, we kind of agree that this is the outcome." It's probably not how we're getting there, obviously. But we do want to try and do something a little bit different. We'll try this for a couple of the events. It was something that Tony brought up, and I thought it was a really really good idea. At least it gives us less of an excuse to ramble on, and more of an excuse to kind of just chill out, relax, and watch this happen, and go, "Oh yeah, no, I could see that happening." And then yeah, so I'm the added effect of if you join us in the chat, you can tell us live there and then whether or not you agree with us or disagree with us.
yeah, 100%. So, if you are interested, definitely come join us this coming Wednesday, October 5th. It's going to be happening at 9 p.m. BST for the UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So once again, the come join us for the live stream again Wednesday, October 5th, 9 p.m. BST for the UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So let us know how your thoughts are going to go down for the upcoming predictions of WWE Extreme Rules 2022. All right, time for some quick hits. So, once again, for some of the folks that are newer and less familiar, quick hits are little segments that happened throughout the week that we wanted to highlight and we wanted to talk about that, excuse me, we may not have gotten a chance to talk about full fledged proper in the shows and the topics that we went over, but we wanted to share them nonetheless because we enjoyed them and we had fun with them and we just wanted to say, hey, I like this, or sort of that pop the boys segment. So I'll go ahead and start us off. Excuse me. All right. My quick hit comes from AEW Dynamite, and this one happened during the Bryan Danielson Matt Menard match. Here we see Angelo Parker, of course, Matt Menard's partner, made his presence felt throughout the matchup, including pulling Daddy Magic outside of the ring when Bryan was going for some kicks. He ended up pushing him out of the way when he was going for a diving knee and actually hit a DDT to Bryan on the floor. So we see there the obvious advantage with Angelo Parker on the outside. But to even the odds, feeling the disadvantage, Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan's BCC partner, comes down to the ring to even the odds. We see Claudio go to grab Parker, but he rips his jacket off. And Parker dives around the ring post, but ends up getting a massive European uppercut from Castagnoli. And then at the end here, we see Claudio just end up finishing off here. We see Claudio getting the gut wrench on Parker and just slings him over his own shoulder and just carries Parker all the way effortlessly up the ramp and to the back. And it's ridiculous. The scary power that Claudio has. We talked about the power that Bandido has. This is another guy that has that ridiculous strength, and the effortlessness that he carried Angelo Parker to the back was amazing and comical all at the same time.
It was just hilarious. It was just amazing. Like you said, this Bandido strong pound for pound. This guy, I don't know if he's stronger, but I kind of want to find out. Put these two together in a match soon, please.
It was ridiculous. And again, it was just something that sort of happened kind of on the outside, an auxiliary to the match itself. But it was one of those I was like, this is amazing. This is incredible. It's also funny because
Yeah.
he's just like a screaming child slung over Claudio's shoulders, kind of like, no, don't
No,
take
daddy, I
me.
don't
Yeah.
want to go.
So I think
If he
that
had started kicking his feet and stuff out of him.
I think Parker
Oh
selling it
dear.
also made it fantastic.
Mm,
So yeah, just I thought that was funny. I thought it was amazing. I had fun with it. Yeah, so I wanted to share it.
he's so good.
So yeah, so that was my quick hit from this week, Joker. Do you have any quick hits that you'd like to share?
I have two this week, PT. I have two.
Hey, let's
Two.
go.
It's a bonus week for Joker because normally I have 0 to 1, and this week I have the two. My first one comes from this week's SmackDown in coming from Canada, where the Maximum Meal models were going for the title of longest pose. Max coming in and hearing this was obviously disgusted as the boys begin to set up and start to pose, and it was an ongoing segment throughout the show. We see people like Hit Row come in and obviously start something. We see Shinsuke come in and pose with the boys for a bit and then get kind of confused as to why they're all doing this and walks off. Um, Even Kevin Owens comes in and offers some tips to Massey with his hand. It should be a little bit higher, makes it a little bit more effective, as he says. But near the end of the show, we see uh, Maxine start to count down the how much longer they need to pose for, and straight out of left field, as you said, getting Pearl Harbor basically was Max Dupree coming in with a run in on Monsieur and or Monsoir, sorry, and he just knocks them both down. They're all on the ground, and he just berates them. Takes his belt off with the big M on it, and he just goes, "Maybe this just wasn't for me," and throws the belt down. And he goes, "Yeah," and walks off. And this is how much it popped me, ladies and gentlemen. For the rest of the day, I was walking around the house just going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Saw the dog in the hallway. Yeah. Just looking at the dog, visibly confused. But yeah, it was this was I'm sad because I love the Maximum Male models for the audacity, the stupidity, the silliness, the sports entertainment. But we are getting LA Knight, and I couldn't be happier.
I have to say, when I was watching SmackDown and I saw this segment, and then I saw the piece again, the aforementioned Max come out, take the belt off, and say, "This wasn't for me," and he said the "Yeah." I instantly thought of you. And then when you told me as we are getting prepped for the show, I was like, you wanted to mention this. I was like, I knew it. I knew you were gonna say something and I needed it. I needed you to reiterate. So I love it. Yeah, it's just nice little subtle thing there. Harkening to the sort of rumors that was like maybe the, you know, person who is portraying the Max Dupree character wasn't comfortable or wasn't full fledged or all into it. So it was kind of just like, you know what, maybe this wasn't for me. And like I forget the exact verbiage, it was like, but I knew it, type of thing or something like that. And then the yeah type of thing. And it's just, oh man. It was planting those seeds, and again, it made me instantly think of you, and it worked. It popped me, and I was like, I knew it, I knew it.
I was just so happy to hear that. Yeah. Just like I'm just
And
walking off.
I love the fact that you were just saying yeah to like in the hallway to the dog. I love it.
I watched it this morning because obviously can't watch it at live, and I would just walk out, go grab myself a coffee, saw the dog, and went yeah, just walked on, just as like yeah, for about 20-30 minutes after this show. Just yeah, hot me big.
I love it.
My second quick hit. Now, uh, last week, obviously, PT had mentioned that we were seeing a little bit of primo acting from Jey Uso surrounding the T-shirt ceremony for Sami Zayn. Now, this week, after a successful bout in the ring with Solo Sikoa getting the big dub, um, Sammy and Solo come back to the dressing room. We had heard that the Usos have been given the night off, so they probably weren't there because they are now record breaking, or coming up to. I think they have actually achieved the record breaking length of time for holding the tag titles. They've beaten the New Day now, or they're about to, and they get to the dressing room only for it to be locked. And Sammy's a wee bit surprised, and out pops Jey Uso. Just kind of, have a wee bit of back and forth, wee bit of bounce, and Solo walks in. And fair enough. Jay stops Sammy and kind of looks at him and goes, "I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing. If you do anything to harm this family, I'm gonna come for you. I'm gonna get you." And it's this storytelling. Like, we have loved the storytelling of Sami Zayn in the Bloodline for a while. It is not anything that's going on that I am upset about. I think last week I was getting a wee bit worried that maybe this was the end, but now that we're seeing Jey Uso become possibly the boy who cried wolf, this could be an amazing setup for a betrayal angle and the possible end of the bloodline becoming in sight. Because what is Jay going to do? Is he going to rat Sammy out? Is he going to try and sow seeds of dissent? Is he going to get himself kicked out because people are sick of him and his conspiracies against Sammy because Sammy's nothing but trustworthy? Because don't forget, Sammy has saved practically everybody from a devastating move. Like the Claymores, like Solo and Roman have both been saved. He has that rapport with Jimmy. But now Jay is on the outside looking in, and he goes, "I'm going to defend my family from this intruder." And he has no trust for Sammy. And this is where the story is going to get good.
That was another one that I just was like, man, ooh, very small segment, maybe about a minute, but I was enthralled the entire time. And of course, again, this was a follow up to just the part that I had mentioned last week in a short, and then you mentioning it here as well, like comes in and just somebody had made a comment on the short that featured the t-shirt ceremony as you put it, and somebody was just like, "Man, this was." I think the nature of the comment was like, "Man, I just hope they don't fumble it." And I responded back to their YouTube comment just about how like it's really really good, the layers to this story, the different kind of spin they have on it, and I mentioned in it too, like Jay being the first member to enter the bloodline. He went to battle with Roman, and him being Jay being Roman's right hand, and he's basically the sort of enforcer or the sort of kind of bodyguard to that. And they basically, in an organization like that, you think about, depending on the organization, you have that particular person, or in clubs they have the sergeant at arms, and they keep everybody in line. And he just comes out and saying, "You might have everybody else fooled, but I see right through you. I see what you're doing." Right. And you know what? Moment you step out of line, I'm gonna take care of you. And that's his role, as Roman's right hand, as his sort of sergeant at arms. And it was just like, you know what? I'm putting you on notice. I notice you and I see you. But then Sammy claps back and he goes, "Well, let's see how Roman feels about that." Because again, to his credit, he's taken those bullets. He's taken those charges for pretty much everybody in the bloodline. He's taken those hits for them. So he's proved his worth. It's not just like, I'm trying to skeeving. So it's like you can understand Jay's point of view and you can
Mm,
understand Sammy's point of view. And
yep.
that's when stories are just really, really engaging, is when you
Yep.
can understand and relate to both characters' perspectives. And that's what makes this so enthralling. And that's why I think the folks like you and I and other people are just so drawn to this story and this little dynamic between these two.
Yeah. It's definitely become a story that has evolved out of the bloodline. That at a time when the bloodline was honestly getting stale, More so because Roman's never on TV, the Usos were holding it down, but they were kind of having the same matches all the time, and it was getting boring. But now this intrigue, this actual story within the microcosm of the bloodline, is kind of accelerating through its stages of, well, we're here now. We're actually going to tell you something different. This is the beginning of the end, for some people, and but is it the end that we're expecting? Is it the end that everybody else is expecting? There's only one way to find out. And at the minute, Jay and Sammy are my absolute favorite sports entertainers slash wrestlers.
I'm in agreement. I'm liking what they're doing. It's reinvigorated life into the storyline. I'm going to harken back to the commenter on the YouTube comment, and I just hope that they don't drop the ball with the execution of the next steps slash the end of the storyline. So we're hoping for better. We like what we got going on. Papa H has garnered a lot of faith and trust from the fans. So we'll see how this definitely plays out. But yeah, absolutely wonderful little moment right there and fantastic quick hit for sure. All right, so those were our quick hits from this week. Definitely let us know down in the comments on YouTube or on Twitter or Instagram what your quick hits and what your favorite moments were from this week in wrestling. All right, so that about wraps it up for us. Joker, how was that for you, man? This was another fun one for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of absolute silliness this week in sports entertainment land. Some nice wrestling went in there too. But definitely a lot of sports entertainment, and my little evil heart was happy.
You got to have a nice balance, right? We need to have the wrestling because obviously it's a wrestling program, so you need some of that.
Yep,
We've had some good matches. Again, the aforementioned Ring of Honor World Championship match. But then also, it's part sports entertainment. And we were definitely sports entertained with we'll highlight the three quick hits that we had. Again, they were just segments that happened within the sphere that were just like, man, this is awesome. And I just thoroughly enjoyed. And we were both sports entertained.
100%.
Yeah, so definitely nice little fun match and just overall segments here. So definitely we appreciate that. And again, it's always a pleasure when we can chat and just about symbolics about wrestling.
Always.
And again, before we duck out, thank you guys so much for all the support again on the YouTube side for the folks again checking out our shorts and our full-fledged episodes and just giving us a moment of your time and the comments and the likes. We've been appreciated. It definitely lets us know that you are enjoying the content. So if you feel like we've earned it, feel free to throw a like, comment, or subscribe and just let us know how we're doing and letting us know that those types of content we're putting out is enjoyable. And also on the audio side, thank you so much. We're over 400 downloads altogether. So that was mind boggling for 19 episodes in. The fact that we've had that many from just being two guys just kind of talking about wrestling for, I'll say it kindly, for not celebrity guys or not kind of big followings in ourselves, but folks have responded. So on the video side and the audio side. So thank you so much for those audio downloads. And again, feel free to give us a follow if you feel like we've earned it, or let us know. Just comment on the various platforms and let us know how we're doing. So thank you again for all the support.
Yeah, help us to improve. If you don't like it, tell us why. If you do, tell us why. If you want less of my face, that's no problem. We can just edit me out. It's okay.
Put a little blur filter over both of our
Yeah.
cameras. So
It's just yeah. I mean, I don't know why we put a blur over yours, but it's fine. My face will do.
yeah, one of the best things that folks, especially creators, can get is feedback to let us know what we're doing well, but also let us know what we're not doing well. So, again, if you feel like you earned it, just let us know. And either way, we appreciate all the support that you've given us. All right, so for TF Joker,
Yeah.
And for me, Pretty Tony, we thank you for your time and letting us be a part of your day. And remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we will catch you next time. Peace.